This episode of the Goldmine Podcast is brought to you by Creating the Best Version of Me, a journal designed for ambitious Christian women who are seeking to increase their self-awareness, find purpose, and embark on the next level of their personal evolution journey. As entrepreneurs, career women, mothers, leaders, world changers, it is so important that we invest in our mindset and well-being, and journaling is one of the simple but powerful ways of doing that. This isn't your typical blank page journal. Besides the carefully curated morning and evening prompts, you'll also find a primary aim questionnaire that is designed to help you clarify your purpose, and a whole section of affirmations to help you retrain your thinking and speaking into positive patterns. This journal is easy to use, has plenty of room for writing and reflecting, and guaranteed to help you become the best version of yourself. You do not want to go through 2019 without this journal. Buy your copy on Amazon today. The link is in the show notes. You're listening to episode 44 of
The Goldmine Podcast.
As women, we have to invest that time in getting to understand who we are.
Be ambitious, be bold, create the life of your dreams. This is the Goldmine Podcast with your host, Adrian Dion.
Hey you guys, thanks so much for joining me for another episode of the Goldmine Podcast. I'm excited to be back with you here in February. It's the second month of the year. And before we get into anything else, I just want to ask this one question. I want you to think about this. If every month was just like January for the rest of the year, on December 31st, will you be happy with 2019? Will you have accomplished each and every one of your goals that you've set for the year? This is so important because we can't approach the year and our goals as if things are going to just happen. We make them happen. And a part of making them happen is assessing our journey, not waiting till the end to look back and see what we're doing wrong, but making sure that we are tracking our progress on a consistent basis. And so if that question, that the answer to that question is no, I want you to realize that this is the time you need to be making adjustments. We don't need to wait until the end of the quarter or in July to say, oh my gosh, this is the second half of the year. I need to, do some things differently. No, this is the time. Each month you should be asking yourself those types of questions and making sure that you adjust your behavior as necessary. So I just want to say, I hope that you guys are on track, that you are continuing to keep your goals in front of you. I know a lot of times we can get distracted by the things that we have going on in everyday life, but just making sure you keep those things in front of you are going to be so important to whether you're going to achieve your goals at the end of the year. If you're needing assistance with that, accountability partner to help you along your journey, I am here for you. Just make sure you reach out. You can sign up for a strategy session with me, and I would love to help you and assist you on your journey. Now, for today's episode, I am excited to introduce you to a new friend of mine. Her name is Ali Boone, and she is an amazing entrepreneur, an amazing leader, and I know you guys are going to learn so much from her. But I wanted to bring her on because she has really mastered lifestyle design and really have mastered having the freedom of her time with entrepreneurship. I know a lot of times when we get into entrepreneurship, especially in the beginning, it's really hard because we're wearing so many hats. And so today she's going to come on and talk to us about how we're able to free up our time and make sure that we're not just creating another job for ourselves, but really creating that freedom that all of us are looking for in our lives to be able to do the things that we really, really love. And it's not only for just entrepreneurs or business people. It's also for those people who are working a 9-to-5. A lot of times that can be even worse than entrepreneurship because we have those 9-to-5 jobs, we have kids, we have families, and a lot of times we get lost in all of that and we don't have the freedom of our time. So also for those who may be working a 9-to-5, this is also for you. So without further ado, let's get into this interview. All right. So welcome to the show, Ali.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yes, I am so excited for this interview. And to begin, I think I'm just going to read a little bit of your bio since I think it's super interesting. I haven't read through it, so I hope that I don't mess anything up.
No worries.
All right, so you're a lifestyle entrepreneur, business consultant, and real estate investor. Ali left her corporate 9-to-5 job as an aerospace engineer to follow her passion for being her own boss and creating the ultimate freedom for herself. She went from being on food stamps in her first year of entrepreneurship to facilitating over 18 million in real estate transactions in her first 5 years of business. She has a master's degree in both aerospace engineering and spiritual psychology, and she teaches flying and often can be found snowboarding or volunteering in prisons. Her ultimate goal is to one day challenge Tim Ferriss, who I love, to a lifestyle design duel.
I'm coming for you, Tim.
Oh my gosh. So Tim Ferriss, first of all, if you're listening to my podcast, like I'm very flattered right now, but you need to see this in action. Oh my gosh, where do I start? You were an aerospace engineer. Why was that not your passion? Like, how does that?
Oh, I thought it was just gonna be why. I was like, that's the best question I've ever got. Why? Trust me, I was asking the same thing.
I feel like you have to have a passion for that to go into aerospace engineering.
Well, almost. So I have a passion for airplanes. So I actually went to college. I started working on my flight ratings, and I was going to be a pilot. So I transferred to a college that had a professional pilot degree, thinking, oh, that's perfect. I want to be a pilot. But I got to that school, and I was like, wait a minute. If I get a degree in professional pilot, and I ever don't want to be a professional pilot, you know, what am I going to do? And you can get all your flight ratings outside of a college degree. It's not even really part of it. So I was like, well, maybe it'd be smarter to do that and switch my major to something a little bit more, well, less specific. And so I loved math. I liked problem solving. I was like, obviously I should do engineering. And because I knew engineers got paid more, I was like, it's got to be the same thing as flying. Yeah. Turns out, not even close. Like, not even really. I went through a master's degree and 5 years in the industry to find out, no, nothing like flying. I have engineering tendencies for sure, but I don't like details, and that's all they care about. I'm the pilot. I just want the big picture. Like, I don't care how the message gets to me. I just want to make sure it gets to me, and then I go play with it, kind of thing. So it was a little bit of an accident. It came from a passion, but it was kind of a misguided oopsie. But it also supported me really well and helped. I mean, it kind of laid the foundation for all of this anyway. So, and I can still make a mean spreadsheet for sure.
That is so cool. And you know, one of the things that that you kind of mentioned, it sucks that we think we have a pathway and we go into things only to find out like this is not what I really want. Like for me, I wanted to be a doctor, I thought, until I got into the medical field, and it was like 12-hour days and like, you know,
on call.
I kind of got a college degree for nothing because this is not what I want to do. So yeah, like it sucks, but like you said, it laid the foundation for everything else.
Well, yeah, and I think people are fast to be like, oh my God, I can't believe I wasted all that time doing anything. I'm an advocate of there's no time wasted unless you don't learn from something. Exactly. So like I went engineering, you went doctor. Guess what? We both figured out we don't like that stuff. And like even once I got out of engineering, my whole entrepreneurship path, really more of it than starting a business, was figuring out myself. What do I like? What do I not? I didn't like engineering, but what did I not like about engineering? What about engineering am I actually good at? And how can I apply that forward? And even for me, getting the experience of a corporate job was key. Mostly to know that I never want it again. But, you know, like even in forming my own business, I was able to see how a large thing works. And, you know, I have a huge appreciation for that experience. So I know that because I feel like people who've never worked a corporate job, it is kind of unique. Like is it the office or office space or whatever? Not totally inaccurate. You know, and so I'm glad I experienced, but that's what I encourage people is like, no matter how off base you go or what direction you turn, I guarantee you whatever you're doing contributes to the future.
Yeah,
sure.
I definitely agree. Couldn't agree more. So you figured out that that wasn't what you wanted to do, and you left your 9 to 5 job and became an entrepreneur. How, like, so what are we talking? Like, were you in it for 5 years and then like one day you quit and was like, yo, I want to be my own boss? Like, what happened? Like, how did that
Here
happen?
we go. No, it was actually kind of opposite. So the very first minute that I ever walked into my first cubicle, I knew right then. I was like, uh-oh. Like, I mean, I hadn't even sat down in my chair. I just looked, because I had been teaching flying. My office had been the sky, clear blue skies, all that fun stuff. And then I turned this corner into this gray cubicle underground. I'm wearing these hideous business casual clothes. And I'm like, oh no. Like, and I got up earlier than uh-oh. And so I knew from that second, I had to get out.
Yeah.
But it took me 5 years to do that. So when I figured that out, I was like, well, how am I going to get out? I don't really, I mean, I can teach flying, but I don't want to make a living doing that. It's a terrible living. What service or skill do I have? And I couldn't come up with anything. I'm smart. I could do different stuff, but like how to make that a business or how to put that into use. And so for 5 years, I just explored. I went to real estate investing seminars, I'm looking at my bookshelf actually. I read so many books. I found authors that I latched onto, read those. I kind of dabbled in different things. I tried different things. I was like, I'm going to start a business. The next thing I know, real estate and investing opportunity came up. And I was like, oh, well, I'll be smart while I have a W-2 paycheck and invest. And then that investing kind of led to everything that ended up happening.
Okay.
So it was really, it was a 5-year intensive thing just because I didn't know what to do. And then I'm a huge advocate. For me, it all unfolded after all the work, during all the work, after all the work, it very much unfolded organically. Like, I started investing on the side just because I had a paycheck at the time. Then that led to this, and that led to that, and that led to that. And then one day I woke up and I was like, wait a minute, could I actually make a living doing this? And that's how that formed. And then I stayed with my corporate job as long as I could to keep feeding myself while I started the business. And then at some point I just had to leave the corporate job because I couldn't balance the two of them. But yeah, it was a very, what's the word? Not innate process. It was a slow build. It was not an overnight thing. I don't think things really can happen overnight. And a lot of that, like we were talking about earlier, was exploring. Like I don't know what is me. I don't know what's in my cards. I don't know any of that. So let me see if I can figure that out.
Yeah, and I love that you hit on that point because I think a lot of people are afraid to explore because they're afraid they may do the wrong thing. Like everybody's like trying not to waste time, like you were just talking about earlier, and not, I don't want to fail or I don't want to, waste time. But it's in those things that you learn about yourself. You learn, because if not, you're going to end up thinking, well, this makes a lot of money or this person is doing it, and you end up probably recreating the same situation over again. So, and
plus in this kind of field, if you try and go forward and make it to where you're not going to make a mistake or you don't waste time, it's like good luck with that. Like, I mean, really, I feel like entrepreneurship is so much like I'm taking a wad of something and just launching it against a wall and seeing what sticks. Because it really, like, I think back, my biggest holdup in entrepreneurship has been marketing. I feel like I suck at marketing, and I have thrown out so many marketing attempts. The money spent on that, the time spent on that, the sanity spent on that, unbelievable. But I know in looking back that what seemed to be wasted money at the time got me to where I got. My first real estate investment was a huge loss. Like right out of the gate, I just lost all sorts of money. But now that I'm 6 or 7 years past that, I see how that money literally is why I am where I am today. So yeah, one could see the loss of that, but that got me my own company, my connections, my everything. That actually seems like a pretty good value. And so, that's a huge thing, is you just gotta screw the failures. I literally think there's nothing wrong you can do unless you're not learning from whatever it is. But it's gonna take fails. It's gonna take lack of efficiency. It's gonna take wasted time as we perceive it.
Yeah.
those sorts of stuff.
I always say success is always on a big pile of failures. It's always,
It totally is.
it's always gonna have to, it's on that stack. So have you always been kind of interested in entrepreneurship, or what kind of drove you to be your own boss?
I think the big thing for me, the one thing I've never handled well in life, which is hilarious because I thought maybe at one point I'd be a military pilot. I do not handle people telling me what to do at all. Like military does kind of say, I wanted to fly their planes, but if they screamed at me, we're like, seriously?
Yeah.
Like if someone screams at me and tells me what to do, I'll purposely do something else. Like I won't. Like I don't do authority. I'll respect authority. That's a huge difference. I respect it. If I'm not the head honcho in a room, I respect that for sure. But I'm a freedom girl. Like I don't want anyone telling me what to do. I want to make my own decisions. I'm smart enough to do it. I always joke that I drive a stick shift car in Los Angeles because I don't even want my transmission telling me what to do. Like, a little excessive. But I also wasn't the kid creating lemonade stands, or you hear about all the entrepreneurs like, oh, I had my first lemonade stand at 7, and we're like, did you? I could have cared less. Like more as a kid, I was thinking kind of what I was supposed to be doing, but I also, happiness was my thing. And what makes me happy but freedom. And so as even when I was a flight instructor, I was kind of my own boss. I could make my own schedule, whatever. I had bosses, but I was kind of my own person. But that corporate thing, like, to tell me that I have to wear business casual and I have to show up at 9:00 and I have to go to a staff meeting, and I roll central. Like I just can't, so it's always been in me for sure, but it's kind of like what do you do with it and not, irritate everybody around you also. Which,
yeah, I totally get that. So all right, so many questions. Number one, I guess I would ask you, you said like right out of the gate, you invested a bunch of money, you failed. What drove you to stay committed to the process? Because I don't know if that was at a point where you might have not known that's what you really wanted to do, or what was it that kept you committed?
I think hands down, I was just talking to somebody about this recently. I read so many books leading up. I'm a book girl. I don't do as much online stuff, but I like hard copy books. That's why I'm staring at my bookshelf, because every book I've read, like that's my college degree, if you will. And I had read enough from authors I really respected that basically warned me, saying, you're going to fail.
Yeah.
Have fun. Like, get ready for it. And like you say, success is on top of a big pile of failures. So when that happened, I knew that was part of the game. I knew it. And I was like, oh, yay, I'm getting through the game a lot faster than I did. I don't wait 5 years for the game. I'll do it right out of the gate. But I knew it was part of it. And it actually didn't kick in until after I lost on that investment. I got into some other investments, and they've over the years have done phenomenal, but they ran into a couple hiccups. This was maybe 2 to 3 years after the big fail. And that, it was kind of like the snowball. It was like, now the stresses of this have compounded a little bit. Like, wait a minute, these are kind of failing as I perceived it. They weren't, but I thought they were failing. And I lost this big amount of money. And I went to my mentor at the time and I was like, what am I doing in real estate? Like, here I am talking to people about real estate and I'm just losing. Like, seriously? Yeah. And he was like, I hear ya. Let's back up a second. And we kind of brought my sanity back in check. Like, we really laid it out and like, here's where the success has been. Here's the reality of the situation, blah, blah, blah. And once we did that, I was like, oh, properties aren't actually failing. And then they've worked out really well since. So a couple of years later, it kind of kicked in, and my brain knew, my thinking brain knew, yes, this is part of the game. This is supposed to happen, but it seemed like I hadn't had any wins. And that's what kind of tricked my head into thinking, wait a minute, I haven't had any wins, like seriously, but I stuck through it. But for me, I'm a mindset girl. I love talking mindset. And I think that mindset, I don't think if you don't have the right mindset, no how-to guide is going to get you where you're trying to go. And so a lot of the books I was reading, they weren't even really totally how-to guides. It was mindset. That's what I pulled from all of that. So it was kind of like arming myself in preparation for what's inevitably going to happen as I find out ahead of time or I find out ahead of time that's going to happen. So then when it does, I'm not completely freaking out. Yeah.
Okay. So let's talk about the food stamps. How did you, we can't,
one of my most favorite claims.
Right. We can't pass by that. Like most entrepreneurs are, I mean, I guess you could say kind of prideful. They, they believe in themselves.
Yeah.
And so food stamps is kind of like, I don't know if I'll.
Yeah, I'm the opposite of that though. I could care less about pride. I mean, it's a wonder if I don't look like a homeless person when I go out in public. Like, I just could care less about any of that. And food stamps for me, albeit very handy. I swore I was the healthiest food stamps eater possible. I'm swiping at Whole Foods, at the organic grocery market. Like, I legitimately didn't have the money, but it was great. I was a healthy food stamps eater. Right. But for me, I love a story. I love things to be able to laugh about. The investment that I lost so bad on was actually in a third world country. And so my first real estate investment, should I invest in a third world country? Absolutely, because it makes people itchy. And it makes for a good story. And so food stamps for me was just part of the whole creative, like,
right.
How interesting can I seem? And it was such a realistic, what's the word I'm thinking of? Realistic thing about entrepreneurship. I actually didn't have the money to feed myself.
Yeah.
And so it was funny on one hand, but it was serious on the other. But yeah, the pride thing for me.
Yeah.
Not so much.
Yeah. And I think the most successful entrepreneurs, you have to have that type of mindset. That is, I mean, in order to fail, you can't go in being, egotistical and prideful, because if not, you're going to end up clocking in to somebody else's job really soon.
Well, and if you look at egotistical and all those, it means that you're trying to look a certain way or look a certain level of capability. Mm-hmm. And I know one of your favorite things is teaching people how to work not in their job, but not work in their business, but work on their business. Like, how can you have a business and create freedom for yourself? Mm-hmm. The answer to that is you have people working for you. Well, guess what? People who are super egotistical and need to look a certain level of capability don't do. Mm-hmm. They don't hire people because they're like, I'll do it. It'll be fine. I can do it all. Like, drop it. Who cares? First of all, you're the only person you're impressing. And second, you're wasting a lot of time. Like, so it goes into a whole bigger picture. But the ego thing, I said, forget it.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because I was going to talk to you next about you being able to facilitate over 18 million in real estate transactions in your first 5 years. Now, there's a statistics that says that 60% of businesses don't last past 5 years, and here you are being able to create that type of a revenue. So what do you feel like was the thing that helped you not be in that statistics to get past that?
Well, I've thought about this a lot, because I've heard that I think it's even higher than 60%. It's some absurd percentage. I even at one point heard 95%. I don't know. That might have been exaggerated, but I realize other people have been very successful with a different mindset than this, but from my experience, I always say that I've had 173 business ideas and only one of them worked, and it was that one. And when I looked at that, I was like, well, what was the difference between that one and the other 172? Mm-hmm. And I think it goes back to at least for me, it goes back to what I was saying about building organically, because I feel like people are like, I should start a business. What should I start a business in? Oh, yep. I'm definitely going to make a pizza shop. I can make the best pizzas in town. Yep, that's what's going to happen. Mm-hmm. And they go pursue that thing, and it never works out. Whether it's because it wasn't in their cards, whether it falls outside of their strengths and they didn't know it, whether they end up something doesn't work. And so that's why I think there's so much value in, they say do what you love and the money will come. Sort of, maybe, but some things I think should just stay hobbies. But it's not even so much what you love, but in my case, I was already doing something that made me money. First, I was doing something. Then I figured out I could make money doing it. And I was like, oh, fun side money. And then that's when I was like, wait a minute, if I'm already doing this thing and it's working, could I was already in it. And that's what I mean by the organic build. And versus the other 172 ideas, the difference with those is I came up with the end game first, and I tried to work backwards to make that thing happen. With my current company, I still to this day don't know the end game. I have no idea where it's going to go. I never knew day to day what it was going to happen. But I like to say never create the business before you start the business. I was doing the business and then I created a business from it.
I love
versus creating a business that, I have a lot of, God bless them, I have a lot of life coach friends, and they think that they need to have their website perfect, their business cards perfect, everything perfect before they can ever take a client. And I think that's what most people tend to do is they create the end game before they ever actually have the business running.
Yeah.
And to me, that's 100% of why I was able to succeed, because it flowed. Again, I don't know if it's science or spirit or whatever, if it's in my cards or fate, whatever it is, but I took the time to figure out that thing instead of coming up with the end game and working backwards.
Yeah. And it's almost like you're repeating, you figure out, okay, I would like to go for this in college, and then you end up in it and you don't like it, and you invested all this money for nothing, the same way, just like how you said, starting with the end game, working backwards. So I love that approach.
And it's all about things looking good on paper. Like, that thing on paper should absolutely work. That college degree on paper, I would love that.
Right.
Really? Like, on paper only goes so far. And my experiences have been that almost nothing on paper ends up quite panning out, except for my engineering problems. But, it's that kind of thing of things can seem great and like, oh, there's no way I couldn't fail at that.
Yeah.
Well, you never know.
Do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're all about freedom and lifestyle and living. You teach flying. You're helping, people. You're in prisons. Like, you're doing a lot. So how is it that you're able to, have a business like this, still have your freedom, and not have this business because it's creating a lot of revenue that you're just working all the time?
Yep. Now you're just talking dirty to me. Like, oh, now we're getting into my favorite topics. So one thing that I had kind of, I started to learn this concept through books, and then I found a mentor who was actually living a very similar lifestyle, or actually his is more adventurous. He's been traveling the world for the last 4 years. He's in a different country like every month, and he runs his own company.
Wow.
And the answer to that is, it's kind of twofold. So part of what you're talking about is, how do you not spend all of your time working in your business? And the answer to that is passive income. You have to be able to make money while not physically being present. And this applies to entrepreneurship, investing, whatever you want to apply it to. But passive income, let's say on the real estate investment side, you can't be flipping houses because you have to go work and flip houses. Yeah. But like, I have passive rental properties, and the money shows up while I'm sleeping. Occasionally I have to tend to them, but I have a property manager tending to the property. I don't deal with the tenants. I don't even know their names. I don't care. The money comes to me without being present. And then entrepreneurship is a similar concept. You have to outsource. And I know, like I said, I know us entrepreneurs, we're capable people, and we think we can do it all, and we think we can do it better than everybody else. Cool. That's accurate to a little bit of a degree, but you have to offload. So for example, last week, Mammoth Mountain, you're in California, Mammoth got like 5 feet of snow. And I was like, well, obviously I have to go skiing because they've got 5 feet of snow. So I grabbed an Airbnb for me and my little doggy, and I took my laptop and I went. And in that time, I thought I was going to work while I was there, but then I didn't because I was tired from skiing. But the income never stopped. The workload never stopped. Nothing happened because I have my people. And I have a few right-hand girls, I call them. One helps me with emails. All the daily tasks are taken care of. And so that way, my only job in my company at this point is to be the visionary, to check in on more dire circumstances, or if there's a question they don't know. A few clients I talk to directly. I work in my business a lot, but it's not required at any given moment. Okay. So I'm more often working at midnight. I sleep in every day. I'm a huge sleeper inner. I'm often working at midnight. When I went to Mammoth and I accidentally didn't work, well, this week has been busy because I've been catching up on it, but I had that ability. So it's all about, for entrepreneurship, it's outsourcing. There's no way around it. You're never going to have an empire without people working for you. And I realize it's hard for people to kind of let go of that control. But one thing that I've kind of, if it makes anyone feel any better, is while I thought I could do everything the best, all of the people I have on my team are better at what they do than I am at that job. Mm-hmm. So I have someone helping me with marketing. I don't even know what language they're speaking half the time. The girl who helps me with my emails, she has our whole client database organized in a way that is mind-blowing to me. I'm like, I'm an Excel spreadsheet girl. Like, it was a very limiting thing for a client database. Everyone on my team does better in those positions than I do doing that work. So it's not even just about freeing up my time. I think my whole company is strengthened because everyone's working to their strengths, including me. Mm-hmm. I'm not wasting time trying to fix a website because I'm terrible at that and wasting time doing other stuff. I have a website guy. Mm-hmm. And then the second component to that, which is a little bit of a secondary for me personally, is my entire company is online. And that means I'm location independent. If I want to travel the world for however long I can, I'm from Georgia. My parents now live in California, but when they lived in Georgia, I could go hang out with them for a while, just take my laptop. Yeah. I could go to Mammoth and work there. Not that I did, but I could. Yeah. I can stay at friends' houses. I have that location mobility. And those two things combined, passive income with location mobility, is the ultimate freedom. I mean, ultimate if you're still working, but at least if you have the passive income front, because if you open up a pizza shop, obviously, but as long as you outsource appropriately, you can still go skiing. So yeah.
I think that a lot of times, like you just talked about, entrepreneurs are afraid because it's their baby. This is our dream, our vision. How did you learn to be able to trust other people? Were you able to just be able to say, hey, I'm going to let you handle this. I don't even speak marketing, but I can trust that you'll do this. Like, how did you go about just being able to trust and also hiring the best people?
So my company, we're pretty small. Like, I have a small team. I'm not some big corporation. And so I think the answer, if you have a big corporation, is probably different because you can't be that picky about who you work with. But I can be really picky about who I work with. And there's been some flops. I think I got a website guy originally and I was like, ugh. Yeah. And I actually just worked with a contractor recently that I put a good bit of money down and the relationship just didn't work out. We had differing views on how things go and I lost the money. Mm-hmm. And so it's a practice. Mm-hmm. And so the answer to that is I really am pretty, I don't want to say close with my employees because I haven't even honestly met half of them. But we have a relationship where we can talk like friends and it doesn't feel like a boss employer relationship. If I have to put my foot down about something, for sure. But when that person's allowed to work on their strengths and they can explain things to me and it's a mutual respect, it's a really cool, unique relationship. And again, not every company can do this because if you have a pizza shop, you're going to be paying minimum wage. But I have the luxury of being picky. And part of it it's just not taking things personally. If some contractor just doesn't work out, it doesn't say anything about me or him or her. It just is what it is. Move on. Like, it's kind of that back to the failures. The faster you can pick yourself up and be like, okay, whoops. Like this past one, super bummer. It triggered me. I just, I wanted the money back. I thought I had opinions to say the least. Yeah. But guess what? I had a person to replace that person within 24 hours. Like, just keep moving. Like, we don't have time. And I think it was a big practice in me learning how to hire people too. Like, what am I looking for? How do I differentiate the good people from the people? And I kind of came up with a technique on that one of letting people come to me. And it's so much of it for me is the communication. If we can talk like you and I are talking right now, we might be able to have a good relationship. Whereas people, when they write the formal applications and the weird speak, I'm like, is that how we're going to talk on a day-to-day? Like, I want humans. I want to be able to communicate. We're conversational. I respect you. You respect me. Let's all have fun. Let's support each other. And so for me, it's more of a team than a multi-tier type of thing. But it's start with people you like, and people, and people are just not going to work out sometimes. And it's not personal, but it's part of the game. And you just have to it's a practice. You get practice learning how to hire people and how to manage them.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you said that, because I think a lot of times people, again, have to get the right person, and you don't want to go over, but that it's going to be a process with, figuring out, who's where and how they go and all that stuff. So that's pretty
It's trial and error. It's like, if I have one person and it doesn't work out, why did it not work out? So for instance, actually, it's a good example of this contractor that I'll say we broke up this week. And she, her work was phenomenal. I hope she's not watching this. Her work was like, her work was absolutely phenomenal. Like, her intuition was spot on. She was coming up with some great stuff. But for me, what didn't work, and this is completely specific to me, I don't work in a box. I can't be put in a box. I don't do restrictions well. I don't do non-human to human. Like, for instance, me, all my employees, they have a contract. They've signed a contract saying they're not going to, yada, yada, yada. Never once have I referred to that contract. Like, once the contract is signed and I'm protected legally, we're back to human. Like, I would only ever reference that contract if I had to. Yeah. And this person, God bless her and her work and everything, I felt like I was talking more to the contract than I was to her. And I really actually liked her as a human. And I would have liked to have talked to her. But the way that she worked, it was a lot more formal and therefore very restrictive and very tied to the contract. I felt like I was talking to the contract. And because this was a creative space, that kind of thing just dampens me. I get nervous. I get anxiety. I'm like, and then she's like, what's your opinion on this? I'm like, I'm too scared to tell you, Yeah. And so I cut off the relationship just because that's just how I don't work. Yeah. But for me, it was me learning, I don't work very good with that style. Cool. And in hindsight, I knew that about myself, but I forgot it about myself. And so it's all learning experiences. If something doesn't work with an employer, always protect yourself legally. That's the big thing. Like, that's the key. But once you're protected legally, what do you have to lose except getting a little butt hurt? Like, and so what was it about that person I didn't like? Oh, now I know what better to look for. And I'll see that, like, oh, no, I can't do that. And it's part of that learning process. And it's all patience and learning. I mean, that's most of the journey, is you have to make those mistakes to learn what works for you and who works for you.
I can definitely see that the success of your business has been because you are a great person, you're a great leader, and you invest in yourself. And so that kind of just spills out into your business. So I love that about you. And I definitely want to say, for anybody that's listening, you want a great business, you have to be that great person first. So I think that's super important. Is there
not to be all cliche about it, but treat people how you want to be treated. It's one of the famous old quotes, but it's true. As I treat the people that I work with exactly how I would like for them to treat me, whether it happens or not, whatever. But once I work with people in that way, they can work with me back. So it's, what kind of example are you setting, type of thing.
Yeah. Okay. I love that. Well, what types of services do you provide in your business, or the things that you do to help other entrepreneurs? Is there anything that you have?
Yeah. So I'm still working that part out. I've kind of, the real estate business has been going really well. And on the entrepreneur side, like, I'm starting to do more in that space. I've actually got, it's actually real estate, but I have my first book coming out in a month. It's real estate mindset. I feel like all the real estate books are how-to guides, and I'm going to give you the prerequisite to the how-to guide. Fix your mindset. So that's coming out. So my real estate company, we work primarily with turnkey rental properties.
Okay.
Meaning the properties are already ready to go. They're fully rehabbed. They have tenants in them. They're cash flowing. They have property managers set up to take care of them for you. You just do the due diligence and you buy the property. So it's really handy. Like, I'm in California, you're in California also. You can't buy for cash flow here. So with a turnkey, we could buy in Chicago or St. Louis or whatever. And even though it's not in our backyard, somebody's taking care of everything for us. So we really support this I don't like saying hands off, because you still need your brain attached, but to be able to, it's all about outsourcing, right? It's passive income and it's outsourcing. And so how can you as a non-local investor invest in a rental property and make cash flow? And so those are the types of properties we work with in support of this whole idea of passive income and lifestyle design. And then, so the services, so we're actually free of charge to work with because we make our money on the other side. So even if you're interested, if you want to know more about turnkeys, you can always just call us up or email us or whatever and say, hey, what's the deal with these things? We'll tell you if you decide to buy a turnkey. We stay on as a support system. We're your emotional support dog. We connect you with great people in the industry. We have connections with lenders. You know, my whole point with the real estate company was to be a smiling face in an otherwise intimidating industry. I'll never wear a suit. I'll be the first person to tell you shouldn't buy a turnkey. I'm actually a terrible salesperson because that's what I sell. You know, I just try and offer that friendlier face and the emotional support, which is not all that common in this industry. And then, you know, on the entrepreneur side, I'm kind of dabbling on that. But, you know, honestly, if you just want to reach out and just connect, we can always find ways to work together. Yeah. So, and if nothing else, I like meeting like-minded people too. So
yeah, that is so cool. That is so interesting. And I think that people are really intimidated about the whole process of real estate. A lot of people,
for good reason.
Yeah, they would love to have a rental property or anything like that. And so having somebody that's already pretty much will provide the framework for you takes a lot of the pressure.
I like the wording, actually, the framework. The framework is completely taken care of for you. And we can help you on conducting due diligence because you want to verify everything you're getting as advertised. So we help you with that. And then afterwards, you have property managers dealing with fixing toilets and tenant drama and all that kind of stuff. But if there's ever a challenge with the manager, we can help you through that. Like, we stay on for the lifetime of your property, in my opinion. Not that everyone calls us, but, you know, so it's, yeah, we're totally here in support.
So cool, so different. It's almost like drop shipping for real estate. That's pretty cool. I love that. Well, thank you so much for coming on and letting me pick your brain about your business and just how you've been able to create this lifestyle design and freedom being an entrepreneur, because I know a lot of people, you know, they want to be entrepreneurs or they are, but they're swamped in a bunch of work and, you know, and not able to do the things that they really started being an entrepreneur for. So thank you for coming on.
You bet.
All of that.
And I will say too, I have worked with some people who have already started their business and are somehow tangled up in it, or they're bombarded, like just what you're saying, they're kind of drowning in it, whatever. And that's something I can help with too, is like seeing I'm actually better at that, is seeing your current situation and let's engineer this and work backwards and be like, how can you free yourself up? Like, what parts of this equation are bogging you down when they don't need to be? And that's, you know, that's entrepreneurship stuff I can help with.
Yeah. Nice. Well, where can we find you?
Well, I'm super excited to say I'm just now on Facebook for the first time ever. A little late to the game.
I hate Facebook. I hate Facebook.
As soon as I got on it, I was telling people, I was like, I have a degree in rocket science and I cannot for the life of me figure out Facebook. It was baffling to me. And truly, I just don't care about most of what, God bless my friends, but I don't care what you had for dinner. Like, unless you're feeding it to me, don't care. So if you just search my name, Ali Boone, ALIBOONE on Facebook, you can find me. Please friend me because I don't know how to friend anybody on it. I have a page and a profile, whatever that means. And you can always email me directly, Ali, ALI, at aliboone.com. And my company's website is HIPSTER INVESTMENTS. And then all the social handles are everywhere in between Instagram and Twitter, like aliboone.com. The dot is spelled out, so DOTCOM. Find me one spot. You can find me everywhere. And seriously, reach out. I'm a friendly person. I love meeting more people. I want to make more connections. So don't think you can't reach out, because you will get a response for sure.
Nice. And I will put that all in the show notes, guys. So you'll have access to all of that if you didn't catch it here. Well, thank you so much.
Hey, and also too, if anyone does reach out, if you tell me you came from this podcast, I'll offer you a free 30-minute consultation if it can be of any help, but you have to tell me you came from this podcast so I can give credit where credit is due.
Thank you. I hope you guys reach out. She is such a joy to your energy is just so great. So I know you guys will get so much from reaching out to Ali. So thank you. Make sure you tell them you heard them from the Gold Mine podcast.
Yep.
Isn't Ali amazing? She is so smart and so knowledgeable, and we really appreciate her coming in today to drop some gems for us. Make sure you take advantage of that free 30-minute consultation. Reach out to her about any questions you may have about entrepreneurship or the real estate investing. I think that's one thing that we have to take advantage of, multiple income streams. Don't ever just attach an identity of income to one place. You have to make sure you have multiple incomes. That is how we gain wealth. All right, you guys, I hope you have a beautiful week, and I will talk to you next Tuesday. Bye.